Okay folks, in light of the JP Morgan Healthcare Conference starting this Monday, as in like 3 calendar days from now, in this video we are going to speculate which commercial stage non-oncology focused biopharmas may, and huge emphasis on may, be candidates for acquisition. Again we will review commercial stage but non-oncology candidates. Watch our YouTube video from a few days ago that identifies potential oncology focused candidates for acquisition. We have no idea whether even one M&A transaction will be announced on Monday. We think it is fun to speculate. This is not investment advice. Recall last year 3 non-oncology acquisitions were announced on the first day of JP Morgan, including Albireo Pharma, Amrit Pharma and Syncer. These were certainly not mega deals but still respectively priced between $950 million and $1.3 billion. Premiums ranged from 100 to 130% excluding CVRs included in all 3 transactions. We'd remind everyone that, while yes there were 3 deals announced on the first day of JP Morgan last year, there were no M&A transactions announced at JP Morgan in 2022. There were lots of announcements and partnerships in 2022 but no acquisitions. Many of us remember last year and of course the Eli Lilly Loxo Oncology deal announced at the start of the 2019 JP Morgan conference and consider it a norm when, in fact, history suggests otherwise. For example, recall in 2019 it was 1 week or 7 days before JP Morgan that the Bristol Myers Celgene mega, and we mean mega, $74 billion acquisition was announced. Again it is fun to speculate and that's all we are doing is speculating here for fun. Okay, let's get to it. We track all non-big pharma NDA and BLA submissions and approvals or CRLs. Here we show 68 smaller cap biopharmas that have an approved therapy but have yet to be acquired. You see all biopharmas that received their first FDA approval since January 1, 2017 including company name, ticker symbol, date of FDA approval, share price then sorted by market cap low to high as of Thursday evening January 4, 2024. We also show consensus 2024 revenue estimates and the 2024 revenue multiple. Revenue multiples are market cap divided by consensus revenue estimates. Remember 2024 estimates mean little to a biopharma that had an approval in 2023. Since all 68 companies have a FDA-approved therapy we consider them commercial stage biopharmas and hence all 68 are technically candidates for acquisition, if any are even announced come Monday. We're going to look at this candidate pool in 2 ways. First we will identify those candidates whose market cap is consistent with last year's average and drill down from there. Second, we will use simple judgment to speculate, another candidate pool. Remember when we speculate we are wrong way more often than we are right. This is why this video is for entertainment purposes. This is not investment advice. So let's do our first review. Considering all 3 M&A transactions announced at JP Morgan last year were priced at, very roughly, $1 to $1.3 billion and all were 100% plus premiums, then it is safe to say the average market cap going into JP Morgan was roughly $500 to $750 million. Hence using last year as a barometer, it would appear the more likely targets this year are those with market caps of roughly the same. The XBI was in the low 80s this time last year versus being in the high 80s today, so maybe take the base market cap 7 to 10% higher. Again, using last year's average market cap going into JP Morgan, gee whiz there would only be these 8 candidates. This is important so we will use a slower speech setting. You see here there are only 8 commercial stage non-oncology focused biopharmas with market caps between $500 and just over $750 million. Again this was more or less the average market cap of the 3 biopharmas that announced they were being acquired on the first day of last year's JP Morgan Healthcare Conference. This probably means nothing but it is an interesting data point. Okay, we're going back to our faster computer generated COIS. Okay, then let's lower our lower end threshold to say market caps of say $280 million so we have 14. Okay, then these 14 would be the most likely targets. Again 4th time, by looking at market cap only, we are going to exclude Revance because, while they are considered biopharma and are close to this target market cap, Revance does not make traditional therapies per SE. So again for fun because we have no evidence, we are going to review these 13 in order from low to high. Incidentally we think Bluebird Bio may be one of the best values around. They trade for cash for which they have plenty now while owning 2 FDA-approved therapies for 3 indications eventually expected to generate revenues approaching $500 million a year. No way they are acquired from such a low valuation. Okay, back to our 13. We'll spend less than 30 seconds on each. First is Verrica. Verrica got their new therapy called Acanth approved for a contagious skin infection in July after a painful CRL. 3 weeks ago Verrica's development partner published solid phase 3 data and expects to file for approval in Japan. Then just today Verrica announced a national distribution agreement with Walgreens. That is a big deal and a huge win. All the same, while Verrica appears to have a very bright future, JP Morgan is just too close to these inflection points. We like Coherus a lot especially after getting their PT1 finally approved. Yes, the Udensaya expansion was also a big win. Even better, Coherus is expected to get to break even by Q4 2024. Of course 6 months ago they were expected to get to break even by Q2 2024. At the end of the day, Coherus valuation is so low compared to long-term expectations we doubt they'd accept an offer even at a 200% premium so they do not make our list. We like Xeris especially after providing an existing update also this morning. However, it was not 1 month ago their CEO bought a ton of stock himself. This means it is unlikely a sale is imminent as the purchase could be deemed an illegal insider trade. We like Xeris a lot. We just don't think it is an imminent M&A candidate because of the recent insider buy. We really like Arcutis as their psoriasis therapy is eventually expected to be a blockbuster but considering their valuation is so low right now we are confident they will wait for higher valuations. Recall a few days ago Mizuho said they see Arcutis at $8 a share within 1 year. Next up is Lexicon Pharma that saw its share price almost collapse after their FDA win last May. However, we have noted consistent insider buying during their fall and during their rise since. Was there a reason Lexicon executives were buying stock last fall? Hence Lexicon makes our cut but still ranked low. We do not know much about ocular therapeutics except that the consensus is they won't get to $100 million a year in sales until fiscal year 2026. After a $100 million stock raise last month we suspect all parties will wait and see. Okay, Phathom. Number 1 on our list would be Phathom Pharmaceuticals. Phathom just got its vonoprazan approved after a painful and time-consuming manufacturing review. Takeda has been selling vonoprazan in Japan for more years, doing just south of $1 billion a year in sales. To us it would make a ton of sense for Takeda to now buy Phathom outright now that vonoprazan is approved. The TAM is huge and Phathom is more or less reasonably priced. Of course we could be wrong, but we'd consider a Phathom buyout as the most likely of this peer group. Marinus is very interesting. Their FDA-approved therapy is called Ztalmy or ganaxolone, which is approved to treat certain seizures. As we understand it, ganaxolone revenues will peak at roughly $100 million a year in its current indication. The real upside would come from label expansions being studied in 2 phase 3 trials. The first is expected to read this quarter. The second is expected to read in Q3 2024. Should both trials succeed, then Marinus peak annual sales are estimated to approach $500 million. Marinus may prove to be a great stock if their phase 3 trials succeed. However, because the data reads are so close, we suspect a buyer would insist on seeing the data before buying. Next up is Evolus. Evolus is somewhat like Revance in that it provides aesthetic-type products versus traditional therapies that treat a disease. All the same, Evolus trades at very reasonable revenue multiples and, considering their first and only approval came in 2019, it might be the right time to get its products into an engine. If anything, we would expect a merger versus an outright acquisition. Like all of our guesses, we could be wrong. Tarsus is also interesting. Tarsus, along with Lian Bio, which was just acquired, got its STIMV approved 30 days before its PDUFA date last summer. Like most biopharmas, it will struggle to get insurance coverage and then to get the word out about its new therapy for Demodex blepharitis. However, 2 months ago Goldman Sachs said it see peak sales of $1.3 billion with quote-unquote expansion opportunities. Tarsus should be the textbook example of scaling through a sale of the company. Travere got its kidney disease therapy approved last February and sold a legacy piece of its business to Myram last summer. Travere is reasonably priced compared to long-term revenue expectations. We'd say based on where Travere is in its life cycle, now is as good a time as any for an acquisition. Hence Travere makes our list. Pharming Group is a 300-plus employee biopharma located in the Netherlands. Being located in Europe, its SEC filings are different than from US-based companies. Its claim to fame is a product called Reconist approved for hereditary angioedema, like another stock we will talk about shortly. In March 2023 their new product called Leniolisib was approved for APDS. It appears retail investors own 80% of the stock, yet their stock has traded within a narrow range for the last 2 years but appears reasonably priced. It is difficult because we know so little about them, yet US analysts forecast reasonable growth. Pharming should do $235 million in 2023 revenues, yet break even at best. Hence we will include them as a candidate but barely. Last up is Callidatus Therapeutics that has a drug called Tarpeo approved for kidney failure. Let's call them Cal for short. Cal won accelerated approval in 2021 and got full approval in December 2023. It was also just approved in China. Normally they'd be a prime candidate, but they just refinanced a debt facility which suggests they were not seeking a buyer. Like Pharming, Cal is located in Europe. It is important to note that while we have been assessing market caps, investors have to remember the concept of enterprise valuation. The two are not always consistent. To get to enterprise value, your market cap and subtract cash and add debt. We won't go through any specifics here, but the differences can be material. Okay, so let's now rank these 13 candidates. Big picture, we generally don't see any of these 13 as candidates except for Phathom. Gun to our head, we'd say we would not expect a plethora of M&A transactions to be announced next Monday, but again, when we speculate like this we are wrong much more often than we're right. Okay, number 1 is definitely Phathom. Number 2 would be Tarsus. Number 3 would be Travere, followed by Lexicon. We won't go through each one, but here's how we would rank the rest. Okay, now on to speculation of all 68 commercial stage non-oncology focused biopharmas that received their first FDA approval since January 1, 2017. Again, be careful when looking at market cap as it is not always indicative of enterprise value. Emergent Biosolutions ticker EBS is a great example. Emergent has a market cap of only $122 million, but it has $880 million of debt, so its enterprise value is almost 9 times higher than its market cap. Now EBS is an extreme, but you get our point. Okay, before moving forward, another reminder: this is 100% speculation for entertainment purposes only. This is not investment advice. Number 1 on our list would be BioCryst. BioCryst has a great drug in Orladeyo that is FDA approved to treat hereditary angioedema. On their Q3 2023 earnings call, BioCryst guided investors to expect $320 million in fiscal year 2023 product revenues, and they reaffirmed peak annual sales at $1 billion. BioCryst's cash more or less equals its debt, so there is no huge adjustment to get to enterprise value. As best we can tell, Orladeyo is patented through November 2039. Hence this offers a big pharma a large revenue stream for 16 years at market gross margins. Yes, some Dutch company reported good phase 2 data in hereditary angioedema last month, but, as we understand it, at best won't be up for approval until 2027 or 2028. And don't forget, good phase 2 data does not mean good phase 3 data. In any event, unfortunately, there's plenty of patience for both companies. BioCryst eventually has to do something to provide a return to shareholders worthy of Orladeyo's clinical profile. Aurinia Pharmaceuticals, ticker AUPH, is always rumored to be close to a sale. Analysts have pegged offers in the $15 to $20 a share range. That would certainly be a nice premium and would certainly make a splash at JP Morgan if AUPH is finally put out of their misery. At the time AUPH's therapy was approved, some analysts forecast peak annual sales north of $1 billion. Now peak sales are in the $500 million a year range. Again, AUPH has to be one of our likely candidates. We're going to go out on a limb here and pick Dynavax as third. Dynavax had an incredible run during COVID. Dynavax's vaccine adjuvant called CpG 1018 raked in hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. But now that the COVID hype has passed, Dynavax is really only left with their commercial adjuvant for hepatitis B called Hepsilaf. Dynavax's growth has stalled and so has their valuation. We suspect a transaction is very possible, and why not at JP Morgan. Our fourth and last speculative candidate would be Ultragenyx, which has long rumored been up for sale. 18 analysts cover Ultragenyx. Annual revenues are forecast to peak well north of $3 billion by 2030 per 7 of these analysts. Considering their market cap is only $4 billion with $400 million plus cash, we think they are an obvious candidate. We should note Ultragenyx share price peaked at $160 a share when the XBI peaked in February 2021. Last but not least is ITCI. We'd remind our followers, all 14 of them, that a Betaville uncooked alert suggested an ITCI acquisition could be imminent. Watch our video from a few weeks ago to learn more, but since our video was published we learned ITCI's Chief Medical Officer Dr. Durgam filed to sell 62,000 ITCI shares for about $4.4 million. To outsiders, with all other things being equal, this filing suggests Dr. Durgam has little confidence the shares are headed north. Why would he sell if he thought shares were moving higher? A $300,000 sale is always reasonable as college tuitions are out of control. Of course, perhaps he is buying a new home. On another new development, we also now know ITCI will be presenting at JP Morgan. Now these two items could be tactics to get a prospective buyer to raise their offer, but we may also be simply dreaming. These two new developments suggest, all other things being equal, a sale is less likely, but, like anything else, we could be wrong. Okay, that's about it. Again, if we had to pick 5 they'd be Phathom Pharmaceuticals, BioCryst, Aurinia Pharmaceuticals, Dynavax and Ultragenyx. This does not mean the others are not good candidates. Many a stock we reviewed we simply felt the timing would not be right. Now if we end up being right on any we will produce another video just to gloat. We also appreciate your suggestions. If you think a specific biopharma could announce it is being sold this coming Monday, please let us know in the comments. Just remember we have no idea if any biopharma M&A transactions will be announced at JP Morgan. Otherwise, this video has been for entertainment purposes only. This is not investment advice. Please take a moment to follow us on social media. Followers are humbly appreciated. Thank you.